Hello, I'm zlAntrax, one of the top Force Masters on the European server, and today I'll give you a quick overview on the skills you will use in Arena PvP. As for the element, you will go with Frost in most matchups, but you can use Fire against Summoner, which I will show you at the end. So first of all, your Blazing Palm, you go with the damage one, because the HP recovery one is pretty useless, so you just take the extra damage. Next up is your impact. This skill is pretty useful because you can use it in a defensive and also in an offensive way. As for the defensive one, with your impact you can counter melee attacks and block projectiles. As example, the Pet Stun from Warlock or the Z-Pull from Blade Masters. And overall, if you time it correctly, you can counter a lot of abilities from your enemies. As for the offensive way, you can use your impact to stun your enemy. Because as Force Master you don't have many CCs to combo with, so you have to work with your chill stacks. Once you get 3 chill stacks on your enemy, you can use your impact to CC him. Because he gets frozen after 3 chill stacks, and when you use impact on a frozen enemy he gets knockbacked and CC'd. You can also use the basic skill one, but I recommend it to use it only against Force Masters in mirror matchup, because you don't really need the block there, and it's a lot more useful because against Force Masters you get frozen a lot, and this one has more range than the normal block version. So it's easier to use against Force Masters. As for your Phantom Grip, it's a pretty important skill as well, because you can catch your enemy, especially spinning enemies like Blade Dancer and Destroyers, and also blocking enemies like Blade Masters and Warlocks. And also if you use an ability during your Phantom Grip, the enemy gets guard broken for 6 seconds, which is useful as well. And if you have Frost Orbits and grab your enemy, you can just use Dragon Frost on them, which inflicts 2 chill stacks. Afterwards you can use RMB, which freezes him, and then you can use impact to start your combo. Like, that's the way you should use your Phantom Grip. As for Inferno, you go with the critical hit one, because the other one needs 2.5 seconds to cast, so for PvP this one is a lot better. Your Heat Wave, in most matchups you go for the Airborne, because you need it to do your aerial combo. But you should use Knockdown against classes like Warlock, Summoner and Force Master, because you don't really get to aerial them properly, and therefore the Knockdown is a lot more useful. Next up is the Frost Sheath. It's a pretty nice skill for stalling. When you get hit during your Frost Sheath, you get the 5-second Frost Prison, which you can iframe enemy abilities with or just stall. And it's important for tag match as well, because if your teammate is in a dangerous situation, you can just tag in and use your Frost Sheath to protect him. Next up is your Frost Palm, your RMB. This one is important to get chill stacks on your enemy. Every time you hit your enemy with a Frost Palm, he gets 1 chill stack. Then your Dragon Hole. You should go with Daze. This skill is pretty handy against blocking classes as well, because it pierces defense, so if you have a blocking Warlock in front of you, you can just use your Dragon Hole, and then he gets dazed. After his F-roll, you can just chase him with your free stun. And you can also, you can also use the skill to do the famous wall banging, which many Force Masters are known for, which I will probably show you in an upcoming combo video. Next up is your Frost Burst, your Frost Prism. You use this one you can use it to catch your enemy. Like use it pretty often to catch Synths, for example. But you can also use it to extend your combos. Like, if you start your combo with your stun and properly carry it out afterwards, you can use your Frost Burst at the end of the combo. So he gets Frost Prison for 8 seconds, and after these 8 seconds you can stun him again. Which is pretty useful, and after that your enemy should be dead. Next up is your Frost Tornado. The other one is just useless because it does nothing else besides damage. So you'll go with this one. Your Frost Tornado, if you hit your enemy with it, he gets guard broken when he's blocking. And even if you miss it, once you casted it, you get Frost Orbits, which is pretty handy. Next up is your SS. Of course you go with the escape one. But you have to take care, if you use it outside of being CC'd, you only have 12 seconds cooldown. So in some situations it's pretty useful to just get away from your enemy. Your Frost Armor. In 1v1 I prefer the 3-minute one, because you don't really get to use it more than once in 1v1s anyway. And you can heal up more than 30% HP if you use your Whale and your Frost Armor at the same time. And that's really useful in 1v1s. For tech matches I use the 1-minute version, because it's a lot better to stall your abilities so you don't have to tech out. And you can also use it during your enemy tag-ins, so you are safe and you don't need help from your teammates. Yes, and that's basically the ice build. I'll quickly show you the fire build for summoners now. There's not much of a difference. The only thing that's different is that you go with Blazing Beam. And you can, in this build you do a lot more damage, because once you get the True Friend ability and the Dandelion from the summoner, you can just inflict burn on your enemy and PvE him with the Blazing Beam. And that does a lot of damage and the summoner will die pretty quickly. So that's a lot more useful against them. Yeah, and I guess that's it. Thank you for watching.